Nice. I'm glad you missed the whole bit about me being a panicker, James. So I've just added it back in. Well, it was lovely to see some of you on Wednesday. It was such a fun evening. I totally lost my voice yesterday, so it's just about recovered. And great to see you all here today. We'll just wait 2 more minutes to see who else wants to join. And
She
perhaps,
went so.
perhaps
See,
while we're waiting, it would be great if we'll start with Robin, because Tom's going to be doing the initial presentation. But Robin, it'd be great if you could just do a really quick intro on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name's Robin. I am recently set up as a consultant, having left agency world after 20 years. I had 20 years in B2B agency. I am very, very B2B focused, and my you had your first Leytonstone experience, James. I'm in I'm in Leyton in East London.
I was supposed to go to John Lyons only, but you're reading all the messages. But yeah, that's a separate thing. Yeah,
Coincidentally.
your intro is much more important, so please stick on that. Yeah, we'll chat after.
But coincidentally, I am very close to Leytonstone, and so I am specialising in predominantly B2B social media strategy, paid and organic, working with a real range of clients from agencies through to enterprise tech, and also a couple of startups. Lots and lots of experience of running LinkedIn ads. So really excited to chat with you all about that today.
Nice to meet you,
Thank you
Robin.
so much. And Alex, do you want to do a quick intro before we pass over to Tom?
Hey, yeah, so my name's Alex. My most recent role has been as a founder of a financial services company called Claro Wellbeing, where we were selling into HR teams and using a lot of LinkedIn ads, LinkedIn outreach to kind of build our demand and leads, basically. So have been building ad campaigns, and we did that all internally with our team. So happy to share what I learned through that experience.
Thanks, Alex. Right. Well, I think now we have a good number of us here. It's time to get started so we can fit everything in. So, Tom, I'll let you intro and then give us some, or hopefully share some of your amazing LinkedIn insights.
Thank you very much, Nicola. And nice to meet you all. I think I've only met Oren in real life on this call, so nice to see some new faces. And yeah, hopefully I can share some new things here, but also I wanted to take you through basically what I believe are like 10 principles of LinkedIn ads, because everyone's always talking about tactics and new releases, and I think when you strip things back, there's kind of 10 things that come to my mind that are kind of table stakes, I guess, to getting results on the platform. So I'm just going to fire through them. It should take like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then you can crack into some questions. Share my screen. Let me know if you can't see. Just going to make everyone smaller so I can see. Okay.
Tom, just to clarify, will you be okay sharing these slides afterwards?
I'll be absolutely fine with that, James.
Okay, great. We'll get them on our Notion. So okay, thanks for that.
No worries. Cool. There's a bonus at the end if I got time, 10 plus 1. Just quickly on me. Yeah, I come from a growth marketing background in B2B. I then set up Fill My Funnel, which is a LinkedIn ads only agency about 4 years ago. I was flattered to be named top 30 global expert by LinkedIn late last year. We've worked with everything from scrappy startups to mid-market to Asana and ACCA sort of enterprise, throwing money at the platform. So, and everything in between. So lots of experience on the platform. And yeah, I think with that experience, you kind of realize that there are some things that remain true. So I'm just going to fly through 10 principles. I'm not going to read them all out before I start. I'll just crack straight into it. But you can use this as a reference if we send it out afterwards. So I'll just crack straight into it. So maybe feels a bit counterintuitive to start a LinkedIn ads principles deck with the website, but most conversions obviously start there. Maybe they finish offline, but ultimately the website has to be able to cash the checks. I don't know how many times I'm saying to clients, it's this two-sided coin. and your website needs to convert at least 1 to 3%, if not better, for LinkedIn to work well. And to do that, I believe I quite like the See Think Do framework. Probably a lot of people in this call have seen that before. Came out of Avanish Cusick, I think, who's ex VP Data at Google. Amazing guy, you should look him up. But basically, I find it a really useful framework to look at a client's website and say, is this addressing people that could be at any of these 3 stages? Because let's face it, we don't know where buyers are on their journey. And therefore, you've got your largest bucket of people that are just wanting to ask the most basic questions. What do you do? How does it work? Why should I research more other than just the homepage? You've then got that kind of mid funnel where people are like, who have you worked with? Show me some credibility, some proof point. And then you've got people that are literally like either typing you straight into Google because you're top of mind, or they're seeing your ad on LinkedIn and they're already familiar with who you are, what you do, and they want to work with you. And how easy do you make it for that user to convert, and what's the offer there? And does the website basically accommodate those 3 basic stages? I mean, you'd be surprised how many clients we work with that, kind of, it's not clear enough across those and they're not answering enough of those questions. So yeah, that's probably principle 1. Website has to be strong for LinkedIn ads to work. I'll just pop on to principle 2. Principle 2 is about budget allocation, and it's about how we deliver content into the feed of LinkedIn. So I mean, it's dangerous to put a percentage on the screen because so many people come to us with so many different objectives for the platform, what they want out of it. But when you strip it all back, there's 2 ways to catch a conversion, and that could be in the feed or it could be on the website, sign-ups, demos, and trials, etc. Now, what became really popular with LinkedIn ads when it started was these kind of pop-up forms in the feed where you're putting some content in front of the audience that you feel will be valuable to them, and they're downloading it, and as you can see on the right, it's like pre-filled information, so it's frictionless conversion. And I'll show you a slide in a minute in terms of how we believe that scales. But that led to companies getting a lot of leads from LinkedIn. And obviously the second question is, how much revenue are we getting? We'll come on to that later. But the bottom images are basically what I believe good looks like. So we're educating in the feed of LinkedIn about the proposition. I'll cover more about content strategy in a minute. But ultimately, we're driving to a website that there's synergy between the ads and the website. And it's more of a learn more play. So is there enough intrigue for them to click through to the website rather than basically making them convert on LinkedIn and then they can never touch your website in that approach unless they find you via a different ad format? I think there's obviously quite a dangerous tendency to go to that top method where you're just capturing loads of leads, but how much are they learning about, for example, Gong in that example? Not a lot, because also most people skim, they're not going to read a massive document. So as you'll notice through this presentation, I'm quite anti-lead gen. Be interesting to see what everyone else thinks when we talk about it. But yeah, that's kind of principle 2, just educating in feed. Principle 3, I got 2 slides on this. This kind of goes on from what I was just talking about. So on the left, you've got this method of acquisition where we're capturing people in the feed of LinkedIn with pop-up forms, giving them valuable content, and then following up and trying to push them to a call or an opportunity. I mean, we've seen what happens with people doing that is you can get some really quick wins. So people expect it to be quite fruitful. And then when you start actually analyzing that in the CRM or however you do it, that it falls down because people are like, hang on a second, you've got me 200 leads for £15 a lead, and I've got no opportunities in the pipeline to evidence that was worth doing. So it drops off, and then trust is lost in the platform, which is obviously really dangerous because there's so many pluses to advertising on LinkedIn. On the right, you could call that demand gen, brand marketing. I know there's a lot of posts at the moment going out about the difference between all these terms. At the end of the day, people have got to be aware. They've then got to be made interested. And that doesn't happen overnight. 4-6 months time frame at the least. And therefore, a lot of people do give up too soon from what we see. Just when they're seeing positive signals, trials, demos, just starting to come in through the website, they're then like, oh, it's just not enough, But from what we see, around 20% of website conversions turn into opportunities. And on the left, lead gen is literally 1 to 3. So if we did a split the funnel exercise, what we see typically, I don't know how to get rid of this, sorry, I'll put it at the top. I mean, these are hypothetical numbers, but essentially what I'm getting at is from what we've seen working with clients, if we can get the intent and the conversion on the website, we see a lead to opportunity rate of 15 to 20%. If we lead with ebooks, guides, white papers, we get more leads at the top maybe, but it falls down when we look at opportunities. So what I advise here is most budget allocation focused to educating and informing in the feed. If you want to test getting some leads through content, you have to run this split the funnel exercise, maybe a quarter down the road of running this in tandem to really evidence which one is worth scaling. I would be amiss to stand here and say don't ever do the right option, the right funnel, because we have a client who's, yeah, let's just say doing very well off 100% allocation to just that approach, but it requires very strong sales follow-up, and that's what they've got in place. So they're getting some return off it. So I just encourage this exercise if you're gonna do both approaches, educating in feed and lead gen. Principle 4. I'm going the wrong way, sorry. Yeah, I guess this comes back to my point earlier. Again, different numbers going around the percentage of your audience that are in market at any one time, but I haven't seen anything below 90%, any good research of that. So what does that mean for our content strategy? Well, you know, what we advise with clients is educating across the kind of core 5 stages of awareness. So appealing to problems, showing solutions, and introducing your brand to a cold audience. And there's multiple ad formats that could be used to activate that. And then when we get to retargeting, making it actually difficult to get people to retargeting. I think that's also what I'm seeing a lot of advertisers doing wrong on LinkedIn is, you know, they'll basically push people to retargeting too easily. And then they'll see no difference in the CPAs across different layers of advertising on LinkedIn. So if we're going to educate users, do we really think all they want to see is a case study if they've watched 10 seconds of a video, right? So, you know, I think it requires being set up correctly. It requires some friction to getting people into retargeting on LinkedIn. But when they do get there, it's about showing how the product or service works and helping them trust you. Third-party validation works very well. Testimonials, review sites, you know, G2, Capterra, can you show your rating on that along with a testimonial? That can work very well. But all that, the purpose of all of that activity across those 5 stages is basically to be mentally and physically available when the time comes, when the buyer comes into market and the problem is strong enough that they're coming for a solution. Do you come to mind? I think if we strip everything back, that's all, in my opinion, the most important thing. LinkedIn can play a really critical part in that because of its targeting capabilities that you can trust. You know, I always say it's a bit like a digital billboard, but you're choosing who drives past. But, you know, it's not enough to have good targeting. You also need a strong content strategy. And, you know, we only show demo, trial, kind of conversion oriented ads. Very rarely we show that unless we've seen actual intent of interest in the proposition. So if someone's watching a whole video about how our service works, or a customer talking about how they were able to achieve a certain outcome with us, or they've clicked on a testimonial ad or watched a case study, you know, that's when we would then start serving more conversion oriented ads. So we call that our hot layer. But I mean, it's cold and retargeting if we keep it simple. I'm just going to move on to the next one. I'm just conscious of time. I think we're okay. In terms of targeting and ad creative, specificity wins at the end of the day. We've seen that time and time again. From a campaign perspective, segmenting across different ICPs, different groups. So you've got HR legal here, then you've maybe got retail, if that was the core focus as an example. But then there's still that opportunity to split down by headcount of these companies to get granular insights. What doesn't work is bundling lots of these facets together and then trying to extract insight from it. Because not only is that difficult from the LinkedIn platform perspective to kind of to really segment that properly on the back end and analyze the data, but more importantly, if you put your shoes in the user's perspective on the LinkedIn feed, they don't really care what you've done in the campaign targeting. They care, what does that ad look like in front of me? And on the right, you can see, quite random ads about salon and spa owners. But the point being, they're calling out because they are specifically targeting those titles and those people, so they can get really granular on the creative around and it's speaking to them, right? If you were targeting too many titles, you couldn't do that. So that's what you can do if you segment at the campaign level. And we've just seen huge increases in click-through rate and conversion CPAs when we do that. So yeah, I think it's hard to also learn over time about what works, what doesn't. Cool. Move on to 6. Yeah, I mean, this feels quite basic and simple to say that you need to run randomized controlled experiments, but the amount of campaigns I audit will go in where too many variables are changing at the same time, you can't see the wood from the trees, and you basically have to go back and say, I can't give you any much insight from what I can look up there. So, it's about controlling everything apart from one element at a time, right? So, for example, in the A/B example for Walnut there, we are A/B testing at a creative level. We're holding the headline below the image and the intro text constant. And then we can start understanding what's moving the needle. And I do always recommend starting with the creative over the copy, where we've seen a bigger uplift by doing that. I think it's pretty simple where the eyes go. And it's just interesting to test different messages there and trigger points at the creative level first. But everything else has to be held constant to trust the data. And yeah, that's really important and not done enough, I don't think. So that'd be principle 6. Yeah, principle 7 is about prioritizing mobile consumption. So on the right, you can see a little screen share I did, but that is a vertical ad on LinkedIn. And I don't know about you, but that is controlling my whole screen. That's pretty prime real estate. And you've got the specs there on the left. But I think if I draw your attention to that screenshot from LinkedIn in our cold traffic layer to a cold audience, can you see the difference in the impression data from mobile app to desktop? That's why I always say to people, over 75% of your impressions, probably more than that, is going to mobile. So are you creating ad formats that are optimized for mobile, basically? And again, not often do I see that, but that's very powerful format there on the right, the vertical. We usually advise creating a square and a vertical for each ad, so that we've got solid deployment on desktop and mobile. So yeah, I think that's worth bearing in mind. I mean, this data was only been transparent the last year and a half, when LinkedIn offered the ability to break down by device placement. So it became quite interesting then. That'd be principle 7. Principle 8. Yeah, don't be too B2B, right? I think if most of us are in B2B, we can see how boring some of the ads are on the feed. Only takes 5 minutes of scrolling to really, like, how many of those ads, if you scrolled for 5 minutes in your feed, stop you? For me, it's very, very little. It has to be something disruptive, something, either entertaining or something that speaks directly to me and my situation and comes back to specificity again. But also what we've seen do really well is sort of an old versus new world comparisons. And I guess that first example there is actually it's kind of doing two principles that we've seen work really well creative. So one is the relatability of, like, oh, I know what an iPhone phone call looks like. Why are they using that? Or it could be a Slack conversation, like from a head of sales to a sales manager saying, where are my leads, or something like that. But people relate to, it's something that they're using daily, right? So that's powerful. But then also the old versus new is a really neat way of showing simple solution that you offer and then getting them to click off to learn more about that. It's basically a call to action to not be boring. It's and to really scrutinize your creatives, because from what I'm learning about the LinkedIn algorithm in the last few weeks, that first touch point is critical in terms of how often it then gets served to that user moving forwards. So as that frequency is ramping up from showing the same ad to the same people, the first touch point with each person really matters. How long do they dwell? Do they click? Do they engage at all, even if they don't click on the Learn More CTA? Do they read the comments? Do they click on your company page? You know, it all matters to the health of the ad account as well. So super important to care about the creatives and to have high standards on them, but to also not overemphasize branding, right? It's more we need to get the click through on the ad so that they can actually get to the website and be educated. Okay. I've got, how long have I got, Nicola? I'm going to do 9 and 10 quickly, I think.
Yeah, we've got 10 minutes, so you're good.
Cool. Yeah, so we crunched a hell of a lot of data over the last, I think it was 6 to 9 months. And from what we can see, and of course, there's always danger in the averages, I understand that. But the principle being here, if we can get people to retargeting, we see a pretty decent reduction in CPA from cold to retargeting. So obviously, everyone I work with is going to look at it at the account level because they're putting money in and they need to get money out. I understand that. But I guess this is a call to action to get to retargeting, but to have high standards on who gets there. You know, if you look at that hot layer there, that's an 85% reduction in cost per website inbound, which is what this is measuring on the right. So yes, it can start quite high. That's because there's no marriage on a first date. I always say on LinkedIn, don't go for the demo on first touch. Very few people are going to be in market. So, you know, it's not scalable. But when you get people to retargeting, you know, we can see it gets quite powerful. So yeah, just thought I would show some numbers, but also, yeah, I guess if you're doing ads and the retargeting is not reducing your cost per website conversion or inbound, then I would start scrutinizing, are we making it hard enough to get to from cold to retargeting? And what are we showing in retargeting? Is it an evolution on cold? Is it more, are we building trust, showing how our product or service works? Or are we just resurfacing the same content? So yeah, that's a bit of data there. Yeah, but to convert users in retargeting, we often suggest a dedicated landing page to convert that high intent. So you've built awareness, you've also hopefully built some interest by showing some third-party validation. How can you craft a very specific offer that, you know, not everyone can offer money back guarantees and things like that, I understand that. But, you know, having a dedicated landing page has served us well in terms of just with clients, just focused destination for a user. You know, if they're engaging in content that shows interest, then let's make it simple for them to convert. But what doesn't work is the offer being get in touch or contact us, you know. And I think even demo can be challenging because too many pages I see is where, you know, it's like book a demo, but what do I get for that? And what does that involve? And what happens after that? And there's still a lot of questions in a user's mind. Just because they've watched a case study or video from a client of yours or clicked on a testimonial quote ad, or, you know, that doesn't mean they're in market. And therefore there are still a lot of objections to handle on a landing page, even in retargeting. And so how can you craft a very specific, clear one CTA on the whole page to really improve that conversion rate from your overall website to the landing page? There should be an evolution in the conversion rate there. We usually aim for anywhere from 3 to 6% on the landing page. So that is quite an important principle, I think, because if you start retargeting, you're just pushing people to the homepage still. You're not telling them what to do, and you're not making it clear enough for people in that kind of do stage that we referenced at the start of the call. Just gonna quickly cover this +1 little bonus. I have no affiliation with Dream Data, who are a LinkedIn official partner. That being said, they're doing some interesting stuff. And I think if most people in the call are either CMOs or head of marketers, I think ultimately you're interested in, we're putting money in, what's happening, and are we getting money back from this channel, right? So basically, end of this year, third-party cookies are being finally phased out. The first-party data is going to become critical. The buyer's journey, we already know, probably everyone on this call knows, it's pretty dark already. It's going to get even darker. We don't have great visibility on what's happening before someone gets into the CRM. What are the channels that are serving touch points? How is LinkedIn playing into that buyer journey before they get into the CRM? So there are other revenue attribution platforms. It doesn't have to be Dream Data, but basically just getting that line of code on the website, start building that data up of you know, the accounts that are reaching the website from LinkedIn. What are they doing on the website? How many touch points does it take to get someone into an opportunity? So you can connect your CRM to the revenue platform, and then it's going to actually start showing you things like the cost per lifecycle stages. So how much does it cost to get an SQL from LinkedIn ads, for example? Well, quite a hard question to answer unless you can really factor in all those touch points as well and have that context as to what's happened before they've got to the CRM. And then there's obviously with these cookies going out, LinkedIn is panicking a little bit because basically, you know, they're going to lose a lot of data that they're using the algorithm is using right at the moment to make the campaigns more efficient. So regardless of LinkedIn's fear, I think it makes sense from an advertiser's perspective to connect to LinkedIn's API, connect your CRM to LinkedIn's API. What that's going to do is allow you to send conversions online or offline from your CRM to LinkedIn to basically improve performance over time, because you're going to give LinkedIn that historical conversion data, and then it's going to know the types of accounts and people that have converted and turned to closed won. And I think that's critical, seeing as, you know, if you don't do that, we've got no visibility until a deal closed. So we need that context. So I think, yeah, there's probably a bit of a dark web to go into right now because Dream Data is pretty complex, but at its core, to keep it real simple, you can see that the accounts that are highly engaged, visiting really key pages like your pricing page, which is what that example is showing there. And even if you don't do this whole API thing straight away, that has been really valuable for our clients to start engaging and prioritizing these accounts that are in the CRM, but also taking really high, like, valuable actions on the website, because they may have never filled a form in, but they're on your pricing or demo page. So what can we do about that? I think that would be the first step, and then consider connecting to LinkedIn's API to fire back some of these conversions that are happening, because LinkedIn's got this first party data, even when the cookies are phased out. No third party, but LinkedIn's got the first party data of what touch points have happened before a deal was closed. So it just opens that up a little bit. Cool. I think that was 10 principles. I did fire through that because it's quite hard to do that in half an hour, but hopefully that was helpful.
Tom, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I feel like I need to go and re-listen to this all. There was so much information there.
Yeah.
I posted quite a few questions, and I know there were a few others as well. So we'll start to work through those. Let's go first to chat and just see what's popped up. And before we do that, while I'm collating those, Robin, anything you want to add in from what Tom's been sharing from your own experiences?
I think that was really fantastic, Tom. So much good stuff in there. And a lot of it really resonates with what I've seen over the years. I think that obviously there's a lot of talk around the death of the lead and how we treat leads, and understanding that social media that social is not an intent channel. So oftentimes, you're right to point out that there's this irresistible urge to go for leads, and lead gen forms, which you showed, can actually increase the number of leads that you can get and reduce that cost. But to your point, it is at the expense of website traffic, and actually in the longer term, that website traffic could prove much more valuable. That said, it really depends on the culture within your organization and the pressure which we're all under as marketers to deliver leads, and how we categorize those leads. I think it's really important, even if your campaign is structured in a funnel kind of logic and you're talking about very bottom of funnel campaigns, I think it's a good idea to always still think that treat those leads as cold, more top of funnel leads, regardless of where they're coming from, and make sure they're going into nurture. I think as long as you can resist the pressure to hand them directly to sales, and you can put them into a nurture, it's better to think of them less as leads and more just as emails. You're basically just getting more emails that you can add into your nurture campaigns, and let the nurtures do the heavy lifting. A couple of other things, there's been a couple of comments around the size of audience. I mean, LinkedIn will tell you these days you need 50,000 people in your campaign. I've run campaigns with far fewer people, and even one-to-one, as in targeting just within an ABM type strategy, even targeting large organizations, just one organization, but trying to find a buying committee within that organization. So you can actually run stuff. It's just, it will cost you more to do it. But one of the common mistakes I see is the size of audience versus the size of budget. So you have to be realistic with what your budget is, and then find a size of audience that's appropriate for that level of investment, so that you can have a chance of hitting a decent frequency. And if you can hit a decent frequency and your ads are actually being seen, then you're getting somewhere. I've got lots of other thoughts, but do you want to
And we'll do a few questions, and then Robin, it'd be great to get any additions from you as well. Frederick, you had quite a few questions. I wondered if you wanted to come off mute and ask them yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Nicola, and thanks very much, Tom. That presentation was brilliant. So yeah, just a few from me. So my question is around retargeting. So from my understanding, you can't retarget on LinkedIn based on website events. So what I'm looking to do is to only retarget people who haven't filled out a lead form on my website. So that's the first question.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in there on that one straight away?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you absolutely can. You can. There's two ways. You can do it by pages visited, or you can actually now do it by specific events. So it will put in like button clicks, or different interactions that are on the website. LinkedIn automatically is putting that in now to ad accounts. So yeah, you can build retargeting audiences based on events.
Okay.
More than just page views, right? Actual like clicks on certain areas.
How long has that feature been there for?
Not long. I think 3 to 6 months max, right? It's
Okay.
pretty new.
Okay.
They phase it out so it doesn't go to every ad account at the same time, but should be in there now.
Okay, great. And my second question is around how you suggest LinkedIn ads are run in collaboration with like email outreach, and whether you've had sort of good experiences there and how you manage that.
I'm just conscious, did you want to take it, Robin, or anyone else? Happy to answer it if not.
I can take that one if you want. As a founder doing the outreach, that's exactly the strategy that we used. So we actually moved away from, we had an agency and we moved away and we kind of brought it in-house. And then we kind of moved our strategy to just using LinkedIn for awareness and retargeting and top of funnel. And then any lead generation, we used, email outreach in combination with that, and also direct connection requests from our BDRs, because we just couldn't get the CPAs down to a sensible level on excuse me, on any of the like the LinkedIn lead generation campaigns. Just a bit of context, we were targeting financial services and HR leaders at financial services. So our strategy ended up being using LinkedIn in much of the ways Tom and Robin have spoken about, for awareness, top of funnel, and then a couple of layers of retargeting based on events and other intent signals that we had. But in terms of actually kind of getting booked meetings in, we relied on cold emailing effectively, and connection requests.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else anyone wants to add?
Well, I think just also, Frederick, in response to your question around the increasing popularity of LinkedIn, I think the big sort of change and the massive injection into marketing services was when Microsoft acquired the platform for like $23 billion in 2016. And since then, that's really revolutionized things at LinkedIn. And first of all, made it a more interesting and creative platform, because introduced things like video, support for video and support for live streaming, and really heavily invested in the marketing services side of the business. And now it's hit 1 billion users. It's 100% in a moment. It is really in a moment, and I see so many companies that wouldn't have considered it 3 or 4 years ago who are now absolutely getting involved.
And I think, Robin, one of the challenges we have with LinkedIn that I'm seeing a lot from founders, sorry, Alex, is that they want LinkedIn to be magical. And it's like, oh, we're putting some spend in there, we immediately want clients. or at least you want leads, and then why aren't the leads converting? And so I think, going back to what John and Oren were talking about, and Tom was presenting, it's really about understanding what the role is of your LinkedIn advertising and how it's going to play a part in it. Because I think the biggest challenge I've seen is that immediacy of results expected. We want to see immediate opportunities coming from it with this sort of spend. So it's definitely an education as well. I think the other interesting piece is the work that LinkedIn are doing that I just realized I'm not aware of. Tom, you just gave us a nice little gem there. Also the option, and I'm going to get this all wrong, so help me out here, but you can now boost internal employees' posts. So if your founder's posting on a regular basis, you can boost those, and I think that's a relatively new one.
Can I add one on top of that? Just a little bonus
please,
there.
I really don't know anything about LinkedIn, so I'm making this up.
No, you're completely right with that. But there's an additional one that they've released, which I think is really interesting, is the rise of B2B influencer marketing. So you can actually sponsor someone else's post. So if you've got like a really good success story, you can go to them and say, look, we want to amplify a post where you just speak about your experience with us, the success, the outcome. But they would then craft a post, and then you can boost it. It'll say promoted by your company, but then it'll be their post. And I think coming back to third-party validation I mentioned earlier, there's people buy from people, and also if it's from someone else, not you talking about, your company, your vision, like that's super powerful. We've been using it a bit.
Tom, do you have an example of how you've been using that? Because I always think case studies really bring it to life.
Yeah, so we're working with a company called Sherpa, who are they are a partner marketing agency. And they work with loads of big names, and we were just able to get a success story from Microsoft, but it was mentioning Sherpa, and how they helped them with finding partners that were credible to Microsoft, and how that helped give them an uplift in conversions for a particular segment of the business. But that's already absolute fire, that campaign. I've never seen click-through rates like we're seeing on that.
Amazing.
I think the name Microsoft is obviously carrying a bit of clout there, but I think a lot, yeah, and that is a point actually, because if you can leverage a name like that, it does have a huge impact, obviously, social proof. But yeah, I mean, it's new, so we've only got a couple of examples, but it's really interesting, I think. Yeah.
No, that's a great one, some great insight. Just going back to, actually, before we move on, Robin, have you used this at all?
Now, I'm at early stages of running some what we're calling thought leadership campaigns for a couple of agency clients, where we're testing whether we get better traction from promoting the posts from their head of strategy. But I haven't used third-party influencers outside of the organization. But within those agency thought leadership campaigns, it's as you'd expect, the posts that are coming from real people are massively outperforming the ones that just come from the company page.
Yeah, so the internal influencers.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's a really big learning I had about a year ago. It's like, don't do stuff from the company page. You've got to get your spokespeople, and some founders are okay with you to take over their LinkedIn account. What I've got with the company that I'm working at the moment is I have the head of product and I have the founder, and it's quite a nice combo. We've just had to be really clear on the different angles that they're focusing on. And we write the post for the founder, whereas the head of product writes his, and then he just wants us to check them for him. So Octav, you had a good question. Do you want to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to know how frequently we should typically update creatives to avoid ad fatigue, and how different that is from maybe the B2C world.
Yeah, I often find that we get, the internal team, the client, and the campaign managers, are likely to get bored with the creative way more quickly than the audience actually gets bored with the creative. You have to really keep your eye on frequency to understand realistically how often are people actually seeing your ads. I think ads can run a lot longer than you think, and you'll start to see when you get a significant drop in engagement and against the core metrics that you're tracking. Then that might be time for the creative refresh. But creative can run for a full quarter with only small tweaks. And I really love, Tom, your A/B testing framework. The simplicity of your testing framework is brilliant. I have so many clients who talk about, let's A/B test it, let's A/B test it, and you just everyone loses track of what it is, and there's never anything useful to provide back to your content team to support ongoing creative optimization. So yeah, I think creative fatigue, you really, really need to see a strong decline in your target metric for you to really start worrying about changing your ads.
Thanks.
Thank you. Now both the Johns had questions, so let's start with John Lyons. I think you had a couple.
Hello. I was just kind of sense checking something that I'd done in the past, really. So for B2B clients in very particular sectors, so very highly targeted, where it was awareness about a new product development, so an MPD launch from clients, using the kind of metric of increased brand search as a long-term KPI. Is that good, bad, or ugly?
I think looking at uplift in brand searches on the back of social activity or paid social activity is a really good thing to track. I think it will, realistically, you might have to be spending quite a lot to start to move the needle in terms of how people searching for your brand. But you might also be able to just see an uplift in direct and organic traffic through to your site on the back of paid social. So in terms of attribution, I think that's it's so hard, and it's so hard to directly attribute stuff to social, but actually looking for those uplifts in direct and organic and seeing if they coincide with when you've been heavily invested in social, as well as an increase in brand searches, is actually a really good way to go.
Brilliant, thank you.
And John Wotton, did you have a question as well?
I had a couple of questions. Hello, I'll put a video on. So one I was asking was around, is it all pay to play? I'm advising some small businesses who have no budget. Can you generate leads from LinkedIn without spending any dollars or euros or pounds?
No.
No, that's a basically it. Okay.
I'm not aware of it if you can.
Yeah.
So there is I mean, it involves a very, very slow burn and a lot of commitment to your organic engagement strategy. So and it really does, it takes a long time to build those communities and to build those connections, and it means that you need to be up in everybody's DMs all the time and having a proper kind of more of a cold
I have I see a lot of companies furiously posting all the time for no purpose whatsoever.
Well, the company Reach, actually quite interesting. I learned yesterday that the engagement on your company posts are affecting your cost per clicks and on your ad account, which was always a rumor, but to hear that officially confirmed that actually, I don't have the numbers in terms of how you need to get X engagement, blah, 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 but just interesting to hear that. Also, as an interesting thing is if you've had poor performance on a campaign, don't pause the ads, restart a new campaign with the updated targeting, with the exclusions, but don't pause and reactivate an ad to the same campaign. Also quite an interesting finding. But to your point, John, there, it is pay to play. You are renting space and at LinkedIn's discretion. But at the same time, coming back to the point around building first-party data, that's one plus I do see of the kind of lead gen approach, where you're delivering content that you believe is valuable to them. Whether they're probably not going to read it, they'll skim it at most, but you've got their consent to deliver email marketing to them, which is where you can actually build a bit of a relationship and top of mind awareness one-to-one. So you could argue that's a cheaper way it's actually probably there will be cheaper methods to build an email list, but in terms of getting people that are actually relevant to your business on an email list, a targeted way to do it I think there's some fruits to doing that, you know.
Yeah.
If the business is oriented around leads, but then at least you're getting an asset that no one can take away, an email list.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Can I also just add, LinkedIn is a really expensive platform. It's a good idea not to write off Meta. For lots of B2B propositions, you can find an audience on Facebook. And everybody's instinct in B2B, I know we could get very, very niche in B2B, but your audience is on Meta's platforms. And so, and I actually kind of think that Meta and LinkedIn are kind of bookends of a really good B2B paid media strategy. And there's a lot you can do through lookalike audiences through Meta that will cost you a lot less than trying to do this and learn all of this on LinkedIn, because you do pay a premium on LinkedIn.
That's actually a really interesting topic, Robin. You know, LinkedIn is expensive, and what are the alternatives? You said Meta, and I used to use that a lot, particularly with SMBs. And I think, you know, we forget that people are, you know, as Tom said, we're dealing with people, not some office building. So a lot of them are on. Are there any other channels that you really recommend? I keep hearing Reddit come up, but I've never actually tested it. Just wondered if anyone here had done anything.
No, not on Reddit. I'm a one-trick pony, unfortunately.
Yeah, with Reddit, your challenge is actually coming up with a creative strategy that will resonate on the platform. I think it's an environment that's quite suspicious of ads, and you can't just use your same ads that you're running in other channels on Reddit and expect that to work. It won't work. You need a very, very authentic approach, and that's true of TikTok. It's true of Instagram. You know, you do need to tailor your approach per channel, but for the right, I mean, for the right B2B audience, TikTok can work if you're looking for a high volume play and you want to get, you know, a lot of traffic through to your site. It's
yeah.
Well, one thing I would want to just say on cost, because I saw some chat in the some people talk about Hockey Stack and as an alternative to Dream Data. I think they're pretty similar. But connecting a revenue attribution platform like that allows you to then understand the cost per opportunity, right, in the pipeline from different channels. And that's like the most common thing I ever hear is that LinkedIn's expensive. But for the clients we've got onto a platform like that, connected the CRM into it, you've got all this channel data going into the platform. We can look at the cost per opportunity, and LinkedIn is almost always cheaper than Google Ads and Meta, because yes, you can get higher volume on Meta, but there's less control over the quality of the traffic, right? So it's all how you judge costs. It sort of answers that question, in my opinion. CPCs will always be higher.
And I think it does also depend on your audience. Like if you've got a very broad audience of SMBs, I think Meta and TikTok work better. Whereas if you're really focused, like me currently working just with publishers, it's a much more specific audience. We were talking about pay to play, and one of the things I have seen work in the past is when you get lots of great posts from your customers. Certainly not getting that at the moment. But Eamon, it'd be great to hear a little bit about how you're using your customers to get some great LinkedIn coverage, if you're happy to just share.
Yeah, sure. So I guess one thing to caveat it, this conversation, is that our target addressable market is very small and defined. So it might work better for us than for a product that has got a very wide spread, differentiated audience across lots and lots of different industries. But like the way I would describe it is just like LinkedIn is an extension of like normal word of mouth referrals for us. So we as a marketing and sales team just try and like enable that from our side as much as possible, because it's like, it sounds like fairly obvious, but it's just the same thing, which is that like our customer telling their audience that our product is great is way more influential and credible than us telling our potential audience that's great. So we're really lucky that we have a great customer success team that get our customers really sort of like enthused, and a lot of them do it on their own. But also I create assets, and like for example, we have a like partnership generator, image generator. So I send that to customers and they can upload their logo, and instantly they've got like a LinkedIn post that they can post about like partnering with us. And we encourage that. We basically help them to create content to promote us. And then like that's like the way that we get people saying, so the way that they come in as MQLs is that when someone submits a demo form, it says that the channel was linked in, but what they really mean is that they heard about us via a customer on LinkedIn, and then they went to the website and they submitted the demo. So yeah, essentially LinkedIn is like kind of
And
digital
Eamon,
word of mouth.
what's in it for your customers? Like, what's making them want to post about you? Obviously, you're providing the content, but I want to have good quality posts. So is it because working with Uptick is something they want to show off about? They're like, oh, look how digitally we are.
Yeah, because they see it as being, they see it as a good marketing for them as well.
Nice.
They see it as like something that differentiates them with their customer base, and it makes them look forward thinking and like digital adopters in the industry. So like they're, and also they run a lot of our businesses that we work with, they run on word of mouth as well. So it's kind of it's like a thing that's embedded into the industry where they're used to recommending people and getting business from recommendations, so they kind of pass it on. So I appreciate that it's probably not universally replicable, but I think the basic principle of like empower customers to talk about you rather than talking about yourself all the time is pretty much a golden rule for B2B, like organic LinkedIn, I would say.
Thanks. And James, you've got a good question here, as validated by Anton.
Did Anton ask the same question?
No, he just said it was a good question, which means
thanks, Anton.
It's worthy of being asked.
Yeah, so I've not done this personally, but I saw this was announced to quite a lot of fanfare. There's this concept of being able to post personal pages, boost personal pages versus business pages. And I'm sure a bunch of folks on this call sort of do posts for their company, then do individual posts on their own accounts and see it's easy to get engagement. Good to hear from the experts, like if they've started trialing that, if they've seen anything, if they're getting kind of preference or data on. So taking a founder and posting his individual account versus a company page.
Talk on that because we've been doing that for my profile as the founder of Claro. And we found it to be very successful for like reaching impressions, and when we weren't expecting it to obviously generate any leads, but we found my posts that got boosted to get much more reach and impressions than any of the posts that we did on our company page, even if one of the posts on our company page was sharing like one of my posts, for example, and then trying to boost that. But that's only anecdotal data. I don't have any kind of like hard data on that, but we've seen much greater levels of my own profile and more connection requests and conversations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen the same with a client that I'm working with, where when we post from the managing director's account, and I would caveat that they are uncomfortable about it, but they are hands-on with it, because I do think that authenticity thing is really important. But when she posts, even though she's got fewer connections than we've got on the company page, we get significantly more greater impressions, reach, engagement. So it does. I actually presented at a session this week on this very subject, and so it's definitely the case.
Can I just maybe add one more niche point around the actual ad format, boosting someone's organic post? That you're limited to only 2 objectives there.
Ollie.
Well, sorry.
Carry on.
I don't know if that was a question. What I was trying to say is the most common objective I've seen used on it is the engagement objective. And what that means is you're getting charged for lots of different click actions, as you've probably seen, Robin, as well. And what LinkedIn doesn't do at the moment is offer the website visits objective, which basically means LinkedIn only charge me when someone actually clicks through to a destination on the website, for example. So you actually have to make sure you're adding your own link into the post retrospectively or for the first time, but you need to give the user somewhere to go. Obviously, I don't recommend doing it in the first 2 lines. You've got to give them a reason, but use something like a bit.ly link or a trackable link, because LinkedIn's not going to give you the tangible clicks to an actual website in the ad account. The clicks that you do see will just be like on your to your profile, or it could be a comment or a like on the post, and you're going to get charged for that. I mean, it's very cheap at the moment, but all I'm trying to say is you need some way of tracking actual clicks, and you do need to put your own link into these posts if it's
Just
in the
on
first
that-
comment, or yeah.
I would say just on that, Tom, I was going to share it at the end as like a little bit of a hack, but we use those thought leadership posts combined with Sales Navigator smart links, which kept the user like within the platform, so they weren't clicking off to any other sector. But the really, really useful thing about that is if you've ever used smart links on Sales Navigator, is you see the exact profiles that have clicked on that link. So combining a post that I did as a founder with a smart link and then boosting that through a thought leader was one of our most like successful growth hacks on LinkedIn.
That's nice tip.
On that note of tips, any other cheeky tips or tricks from Tom or Robin or Alex? Secret things that you know that you're happy to share that most of us wouldn't have a clue about?
Tom touched on exclusions. Exclusion targeting is so key to optimizing your campaigns, and quite often gets missed. I'll do an audit and I'll see that there's been no exclusion of, say, the most junior roles, for example. But then on the flip side of that, having talked about junior roles, don't go all in on the C-suite. And we instinctively, I'm sure you probably all know that that's a terrible idea, but lots of the other big tip is to, lean into that middle level influencer audience as well, and don't just do, if you are going to use if leads are your objective, where you're going to pay a massive premium, consider also using spotlight ads, text ads, dynamic ads as a brilliant way of reducing your costs and getting much greater reach.
On the website visits objectives, only pay when someone clicks, because most people don't click on the side ads. So it's almost free impression data, which is a bit of a no-brainer. The spotlight and the text ads. Click-through rates are usually less than 0.3. That's probably even optimistic to say that. Obviously, it depends on the quality of it, but also make them dynamic, so you're calling out people's name. That's worked quite well on the side of the feed. But yeah, that just thought I'd add to that one.
I've got a couple. I mean, LinkedIn released their ads library not too long ago. They were one of the last platforms to do it. So I did a post on it on LinkedIn that I can share in the chat, but effectively you can put in any competitors or anybody, and you can see all of the creatives and the messaging and the stuff that they're doing. So if you're trying to assess like what ads your competitors are running, like that's quite a useful tool. Obviously Facebook's had that for a while and other platforms, but yeah, cheers Nicola, yeah, that's a good one. And the other one is, I'm like quite a strong believer in, if you're running a paid account, you should have a Sales Navigator account, and the reason I say that is because it really helps you define who that ICP is. I found when setting up ads in the campaign manager, you have all like the company types and the demographic types and the profile types, but I haven't found that to be as accurate or as useful as running that same kind of audience definition within Sales Navigator. That might just be a personal preference, but I've always found that really, really useful to run the search in Sales Navigator and then try and copy that across to my ad campaigns to make sure they serve in the right audience.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's past 2 o'clock, so I know lots of you are going to have to run onto a meeting, and apologies, that was my phone going. Thank you. That was unbelievable. What a great combo, Robin, Alex, and Tom. So really appreciate everything you've done.
No problem.
I'm sure if you have any questions, I'd be happy for you to reach out to them on LinkedIn if that's okay. And we will be sharing the recording and the deck. So do share any feedback. And yeah, just huge appreciation for the time that you put into it. Some lots of great tips and hints there. Thank you.
Thanks for setting it up, Nicola.